Welcome to our new short series called The Ozone. In this series, we're going to be discussing and reducing the stigma on talking about feminine intimacy. Today we have with us one of our fabulous team members, Katie, who also runs her own business called Safe and Sexy. Katie, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Safe and Sexy is a business I founded 4 years ago now. And I work very closely with my sister, who was doing her residency in OBGYN at the time. And we basically travel around with two incredible equity reps to universities and colleges and really have sex education delivered a little bit differently. So having a bit more of an in-depth conversation and, real life application of what consent looks like and reaffirming consent and how that changes when you're in a university and college space with, experimenting with alcohol and things like that and the party life and hookup culture. And then a massive part on harm minimization, which was a lot of what Safe and Sexy does.
Yes.
So talking about disclosures and talking about how to support someone, as well as the fun sides of sex. So talking about the fact that sex should actually be really enjoyable for everyone involved, and that it's meant to be this really fun experience, which I think as a young person, there's so much pressure for all of these different reasons. And so Safe and Sexy aims to deliver sex ed a bit differently, from a medical point of view, talking, real chats about contraception and safe sex, but also talking about all the social constructs that come around with that and actually delivering it in a peer-led kind of situation, rather than a really formal textbook setting. And I've been doing that for 4 years now, and I love it. I love it so much.
What do you love most about it?
I love the conversations that I have with people. I learn probably more from the people that I chat with than I do when I even, give the seminar or the talk. And I've met some really incredible young people who are just so headstrong and switched on, and they're just paving the way to make the world, a better place and a more understanding place and a more empathetic place. And I love seeing that change. It's such a different conversation. When I started having this, doing these talks over 4 years ago now versus now, completely different space. I think there was a lot more, it used to get taken in a lot more of a joking sense when we do talks. I definitely noticed a difference between Melbourne and Brisbane.
In what way?
Melbourne was a lot more switched on when using terminology and language language around sex in comparison to Brisbane. It's caught up, but there was a lag. There was a significant lag there. Yeah.
How fascinating.
And the seriousness of the talks, I think, was a big thing. Obviously, I was talking mostly with young adults, young consenting adults from the ages of anything from, 18 to 25 really is the college space that I mostly work in. But yeah, there was a funny sensitivity of people laughing. Obviously the chats, there is a time and a place for a laugh. But now they get taken a lot more seriously while still having that, you're still talking about sex. There's still some comedy to it. But it's taken with, a lot more sensitivity now, I think, for when people ask questions that could have previously been laughed at. It's now taken a lot more seriously.
Yes, it's definitely at the time and the culture to bring this to the forefront.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
So running All Women's Health here in Brisbane for the past 12 and a half years, I got into this space very much recognising that women from a very, very young age were taught to not touch those areas of the bodies, which is very different to most, obviously not all, but most men's experiences from since they were 2 years old in the bath. It was totally normal to touch themselves and no one told them off for doing that. It's like, oh, that's just boy behaviour. But women and girls are taught, no, you don't touch that, you don't touch that area. And me, myself, coming from an all-girls Catholic school, that was quite taboo to talk about. We did have an epic sex ed talk come to us where we had the massive board on the wall where if you sleep with this person and these people sleep with these people and these people sleep with these people, and you just see oh my God, STIs are everywhere.
Yeah, terrifying. Terrifying.
It was terrifying. So I think that was a scare tactic there. But there was no talk about self-intimacy and feminine anatomy and what pleasure should feel like for a woman, instead of it being more of a performative thing of the movies,
Totally.
which I think, Amy, you talk about. Yes. So tell us what seems to be the biggest conflict for women that you've discovered when you do your speeches to those different colleges.
Oh, totally. Exactly what you were just saying. I start often a lot of my talks being like, who receives sex ed at school? Most people put their hands up, which talked about consent. And that has gotten more so now than it used to previously.
Yes.
More people put their hands up. And then I say, who talks about pleasure?
Yeah.
The hands are very bleak. And then it's who talks about anything besides heterosexual sex and penetrative sex.
Yes.
Very small hands. Very rare to see a bunch of hands up for those. And so for me, I became very passionate about the space that why is it so one-sided? What are the double standards associated with it?
Yes.
And, I've had previous conversations exactly what you're talking about with, you could name a number of jokes about male masturbation and self-touch. But all the female ones seem a little too far-stretched to say in public point and things like that.
Yeah.
And, you could think of gestures that are widely used appropriately to, or inappropriately at some points, to be rude or to express yourself. And they're all to do with male masturbation.
Yes.
But then there's no flip side or equivalent for female masturbation.
Yes.
And so,
or if there is, it's super crude.
yes, it's very taboo.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in a house with two amazing role models for me. My mum's a women's health GP. My sister's followed in her footsteps. So
What a house.
that I know, our full house. And so I grew up in a conversation where talking about feminine health and everything associated with that was quite normal and open.
Oh my
And
gosh.
there's a time and a place for things, but it was very just medical
normalised.
conversation, and I really enjoyed that. And then I went into the world and I realized that no one talks about periods.
Yes.
And I realized that no one talks about feminine shame. And then it extrapolated out to having conversations with girlfriends, realizing that some people's, relationship with pleasure and self-touch, but also their relationships with their partners was, in that world, pretty ordinary.
Yes.
And they were not feeling that they, whether it was that they deserved to enjoy the experience or whether it was that they were even supposed to enjoy the experience.
Yes.
And the thought of feminine masturbation or self-touch or self-love in any capacity was so, off the table.
Yes.
And how can we tell other people what we want if we don't know what we want?
Exactly.
So, sex life, whatever capacity that is for people, is a pillar of people's health and well-being, especially as adults.
Yes.
And if we don't know what we like ourselves, how can we help our partners or guide in that space?
Or the next generation. I've
Completely.
got 2 girls.
Yeah.
I need to set an example for them in terms of minimising stigma.
Yeah.
In talking about it obviously appropriately, but there's time and a place for it. Yeah. So, as part of this series, it'll be a lot of debunking stigma, talking about what are normal sensations, and even if you haven't experienced any of those before, how can we make that a little bit more normal for you if you're interested in that? And then we can introduce toys. It's something that we're going to be talking about over the next few months. Can you tell us about the toy that you had in mind for us to chat about next session?
Yeah, so I've been very lucky to be working with Wild Secrets for some time. They're an incredible group. And we've been chatting with them about toys that are a great way for people to explore getting into that, if that's something that they've been previously daunted by, because a lot of people are. There's a lot of stigma around toys and things like that. So we're going to start with talking with a lay-on, what they call a lay-on vibrator or a palm vibrator. It's essentially a smooth piece of silicone, great for solo or partnered play, great for not just looking at, the most explicit genitalia, but great at working on erogenous zones and feeling vibrations and nice sensations, neck, nipples, breasts, anything like that. Because there's so much more to explore to the body.
Yes, and it's not just about going straight to the area.
Yeah.
There's so many other, as you said, erogenous zones that can help to improve and peak pleasure before we even get to that down area.
And it comes down to the crux that sex is meant to be pleasurable for everyone involved. That's the big passion.
Yes.
And be that solo, be that partnered, be that multiple partners, that's whatever. But it's that everyone is meant to be having a good time.
Yes.
And so if we can improve that for one or more people, why wouldn't we do that?
Absolutely. Amazing. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Katie.
Pleasure.
So fantastic. And stay tuned for our next episode where we'll introduce that toy. Bye.